Have you ever stopped to think about how animals mate in the wild? Probably not. It's a bit strange to think about, but after watching an entire video on the subject, you'll realize you probably should have, because it's a fascinating process. Some mate for days, others perform curious rituals before reaching the main moment. These are 14 of the most unusual mating behaviors in the animal kingdom. But before we start, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now, let's begin. Number 1. The intriguing rituals of elephants. Few animals convey as much grandeur as elephants. Whether African elephants or Asian elephants, both display complex reproductive behaviors filled with chemical signals, disputes, and sophisticated social interactions. Elephants are polygynous, meaning a male may mate with several females throughout his life. However, access to partners is not simple. Reproduction is highly competitive and involves an impressive biological phenomenon known as must. Must is a period during which the male experiences an extreme increase in testosterone levels, sometimes reaching dozens of times above normal. During this phase, he releases thick secretions from the temporal glands located between the eyes and ears, and often displays more aggressive and dominant behavior. Males in must patrol large areas in search of receptive females. Meanwhile, females enter reproductive cycles that last between 14 and 16 weeks. They signal fertility through chemical changes in urine and body secretions. When a male encounters a female's urine, he uses his trunk to collect chemical samples and performs the flamen response. In this behavior, he curls his trunk and directs the substances to a specialized organ located in the roof of the mouth, known as the vomeronasal organ. It is there that the chemical analysis occurs, revealing whether the female is truly fertile. If there is mutual interest, a period of interaction begins that may last several days. The male accompanies the female, protects her from rivals, and repeatedly tests her chemical signals. Disputes between males are common, especially when more than one is in must. These confrontations involve head pushing, tusk interlocking, and impressive displays of strength. The winner usually demonstrates superiority by raising his trunk, spreading his ears, and adopting an expansive posture. Females tend to prefer males that display strength, maturity, and endurance, traits associated with greater genetic success. Elephant communication goes beyond what is visible. They use infrasound, low-frequency vibrations that travel long distances through the ground and air. These sounds, inaudible to humans, help coordinate meetings, warn of danger, and even indicate reproductive availability. After successful mating, one of the longest gestations in the animal kingdom begins, about 22 months. For nearly 2 years, the female carries the developing calf. When born, the baby elephant already weighs around 100 kilograms and quickly integrates into the group. Birth is not just a biological event, it is social. Other females in the group, often called aunties, frequently assist in caring for the newborn. The family bond is strong and long-lasting, and the calf will remain under maternal protection for several years. In elephants, reproduction is not just instinct, it is chemistry, competition, intelligence, communication, and deeply integrated social structure. Each birth represents not only genetic continuity, but also the strength of the family bonds that make these giants so extraordinary. Number 2. The unique ritual of hyenas. Hyenas are among the most unusual mammals on the planet when it comes to reproduction. In particular, the spotted hyena has one of the most extraordinary reproductive systems ever recorded in the animal kingdom. At first glance, it is difficult to distinguish males from females, and this is due to a rare and remarkable anatomical feature. The female possesses an extremely elongated clitoris, which can reach about 17 centimeters and externally closely resembles the male reproductive organ. This organ is not merely visually similar, it functions as the channel for urination, mating, and even giving birth. This uniqueness makes both copulation and childbirth extremely challenging processes. During mating, the male must position himself with extreme precision. Unlike many other mammals, there is little room for error. The approach is cautious and involves subtle body signals. If the male attempts to force contact or is not properly aligned, the risk of injury is real. For this reason, contrary to the common image of brutality associated with hyenas, the reproductive moment requires coordination, male submission, and female cooperation. This reveals something even more fascinating. In spotted hyena society, females dominate. They are larger, stronger, and occupy the highest positions in the social hierarchy. Even female cubs tend to inherit their mother's social status. Adult males usually occupy the lowest ranks within the group and must display submissive behavior to avoid conflict. Scientists have studied for decades the evolutionary reasons behind this unusual anatomy. One of the most accepted accepted theories suggest it is linked to high hormonal exposure during embryonic development, particularly testosterone. This hormone may contribute both to the masculinized appearance and to the aggressiveness and dominance of females. Birth, however, is perhaps the most dangerous moment in the entire process. Since the cub must pass through this narrow, elongated canal, complications are relatively common, especially during the first birth. Still, the species has survived and thrived, demonstrating that despite the risks, this system offers important social and structural advantages. Beyond the physical aspect, hyenas are highly social. They live in groups called clans, which may include dozens of individuals. Within these groups, they use a wide variety of vocalizations, laughs, howls, grunts, and high-frequency sounds to communicate. Play among young individuals strengthens bonds, while social interactions reinforce hierarchy. Despite their often negative reputation, hyenas are efficient hunters and intelligent strategists. Their reproductive system may seem strange to us, but it is the result of millions of years of evolutionary adaptation, an impressive example of how nature can follow completely unexpected paths. Now, leaving the African savannas behind, let's follow one of the largest and most majestic land mammals on the planet. Number 3. The fierce breeding season of zebras. Zebra courtship is intense and highly competitive, especially during the short breeding season, which generally occurs between August and September. During this time, males do everything they can to win the attention of females. Courtship involves vocalizations, displays of strength, and sometimes physical combat. Males fight for the opportunity to mate, demonstrating dominance and endurance. When the female is ready, she raises her tail as a signal, and the male acts quickly. The process can be prolonged, with both animals using body language to communicate intentions. The female may flatten her ears to indicate disinterest or discomfort, while the male may bare his teeth as a display of dominance. There are differences among species. Plains zebras and mountain zebras usually keep mating within the group, typically with the dominant stallion. Gravy's zebras, however, have a looser social structure, with more intense competition among males and greater reproductive disputes. After mating, gestation lasts about a year. When the foal is born, the mother can become fertile again just a few weeks later. The newborn is able to stand and run within about an hour, instinctively following any moving object while the mother stays alert to protect it. The wild world of animal reproduction continues to surprise with its intensity and complexity. Number 4. The intense mating competition of the fossa cryptoprocta ferox, commonly known as the fossa, is the largest terrestrial predator in Madagascar. Agile, muscular, and resembling a mix between a feline and a mongoose, it sits at the top of the food chain in its ecosystem. But it is during the breeding season that this animal reveals one of the most unusual and competitive behaviors in the mammalian world. Unlike many species that form fixed pairs or have relatively simple disputes, the fossa follows a polygamous system. During the breeding season, both males and females may mate with multiple partners. This creates a scenario of intense male competition where only the strongest, most resilient, and most strategic individuals achieve success. The ritual begins when the female enters her fertile period. She climbs a tree, often the same tree used in previous seasons, and begins emitting specific vocalizations. These sounds echo through Madagascar's forests, serving as a clear announcement that she is ready to mate. This call triggers a real race. Nearby males respond quickly and gather at the base of the tree. Within a short time, several competitors may assemble. What follows is an intense physical battle. The males confront each other with scratches, bites, and shoves. They roll across the forest floor, scattering leaves and dust, fighting for every inch of advantage. Unlike quick skirmishes, these fights can last for hours. Physical endurance is pushed to the limit. Strength alone is not enough. It requires stamina. Meanwhile, the female remains high in the tree, watching. Her elevated position is not only strategic for safety, it also allows her to control access. Only the male who proves dominant and manages to drive away rivals earns the right to climb. The last male standing gains the opportunity to scale the trunk. Even this stage demands skill, as the fossa is highly adapted to arboreal life, with retractable claws and flexible ankles that allow it to descend head first. The mating period can extend over several days. During this time, the female may accept multiple males, further increasing competition and creating genetic diversity within the population. This system is an impressive example of sexual selection. Only the most physically and behaviorally fit individuals pass on their genes. From a distance, the scene is dramatic. Exhausted males fighting for space on the forest floor while the female waits above, like a silent referee of the competition. The intensity of these disputes reveals how central reproduction is to evolutionary dynamics. In nature, reproductive success is never guaranteed. It must be earned through effort, endurance, and adaptation. Now, let's shift focus to a majestic animal whose rituals are also intense, strategic, and marked by impressive confrontations. Number 5. The wild courtship of African warthogs. The African warthog, scientifically known as Phacochorus africanus, is one of the most emblematic figures of the African savanna. With its curved tusks, broad head, and seemingly awkward posture, it may appear comical at first glance. However, when breeding season arrives, this creature reveals surprisingly intense, competitive, and strategically calculated behavior. The warthog's courtship begins long before direct contact with the female. Males spend weeks assessing rivals, disputing territory, and gradually testing their strength. When two males meet during the breeding season, confrontation may be inevitable. They position themselves face to face, lower their heads, and use their tusks as shields and weapons. Unlike predators seeking to seriously injure an opponent, these confrontations usually follow a ritualized pattern: shoving, head clashes, and endurance tests. Physical strength is essential. The more robust male, with greater body mass and more developed tusks, tends to dominate. However, it is not just about brute force. Endurance and determination matter greatly. Sometimes the dispute is decided by persistence. The one who withstands the pressure longer ultimately asserts superiority. After winning the dispute, the male enters a different phase of the process, less aggressive but equally strategic. He begins to follow the chosen female consistently. This pursuit can last hours or even days. During this time, he emits specific grunts and low sounds, a form of vocal communication indicating interest and availability. If the female shows indifference, which is quite common, the male intensifies his approach. He may circle around her, lower his head in a momentary submissive posture, or gently touch her body with his snout. In some cases, light nips are used as stimulation to attract attention, without aggressive intent. The behavior may seem persistent and even comical to observers, but it is part of a complex evolutionary ritual shaped by natural selection. The female, however, retains final control over the decision. She may completely ignore the suitor, move away, or simply continue feeding as if nothing were happening. This apparent indifference functions as a test. Only the truly persistent and physically fit male will continue investing energy in courtship. When acceptance finally occurs, mating happens relatively quickly. Despite its brevity, it is a crucial moment that rewards all prior effort. Reproduction ensures the genetic continuity of the dominant male, reinforcing traits such as strength, endurance, and persistence within the population. This ritual blends aggression, strategy, and even a certain theatrical aspect. The contrast between the intense initial combat and the almost patient, persistent courtship phase reveals the behavioral complexity of these savanna animals. The African warthog may seem rugged, but its social and reproductive system is the result of thousands of years of adaptation to the competitive African environment. And if the warthog's ritual already seems intense, there is a predator that takes this competition to an even more dramatic level. Number 6. The competitive mating of cheetahs. The cheetah Acinonyx jubatus is famous for being the fastest land animal on the planet, but far from high-speed chases, its reproductive life involves a quieter dynamic based on chemical signals and strategic competition. Females are solitary and go into heat several times a year. During this period, they mark specific locations with urine, leaving scent cues that inform males they are fertile. The sense of smell plays a fundamental role in communication between individuals. When a male detects these signals, he begins to follow the trail. If multiple males appear, competition may occur. In some regions, males form small coalitions, usually brothers, that increase their chances of defending territory and securing reproductive opportunities. Unlike prolonged confrontations seen in other species, disputes between cheetahs tend to be brief. Posturing displays, vocalizations, and short chases are often enough to determine the winner. Mating is direct and brief, but it may be repeated several times over 2 or 3 days. After this period, the male typically leaves, lives and does not participate in raising the cubs. Gestation lasts about 3 months. The female seeks an isolated location, usually hidden in dense vegetation or uneven terrain, to give birth. Litters range from 1 to 8 cubs, with 3 or 4 being the most common. The cubs are born blind and extremely vulnerable. During the first weeks, they remain hidden while the mother goes out to hunt. She frequently moves them to prevent predators from detecting their scent. At 2 months old, they begin to taste meat. Between 4 and 6 months, they accompany their mother on small training hunts. Full independence occurs only around 18 to 20 months. The cheetah's reproductive system reflects its ecological reality: high cub mortality, constant mobility, and the absence of paternal care. Survival depends almost exclusively on the mother's skill. Number 7. The intimate and social mating of bonobos. Among primates, few social behaviors have been studied as extensively as those of bonobos, scientifically known as panpaniscus. These primates, close relatives of common chimpanzees and humans, live in the forests of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and display one of the most peculiar social structures in the animal kingdom. In bonobos, sexual behavior goes far beyond reproduction. It plays a central role in social organization. Unlike many species in which mating is restricted to specific periods and occurs competitively, bonobos use intimate contact as a tool for communication, reconciliation, and cooperation. Intimate interactions may occur in various contexts: after conflicts, during disputes over food, or simply as a form of greeting. This behavior helps reduce tension within the group and strengthen alliances, especially among females. Bonobo society is strongly matriarchal. Females form powerful coalitions that influence social hierarchy. When a new female joins the group, she often establishes intimate bonds with other females to facilitate her integration. One of the most characteristic behaviors is genital contact between females, which reinforces bonds and cooperation. Bonobos also display behaviors that are rare in the animal world, such as face-to-face mating and prolonged kissing. These interactions are seen as demonstrations of social connection and empathy. Reproduction itself remains important, of course. Females display visible signs of fertility, such as genital swelling, which indicate the fertile period. However, intimate activity is not limited to that time. This distinguishes bonobos from many other primates. The result of this dynamic is a relatively more peaceful society compared to that of common chimpanzees. Severe physical conflicts are less frequent, and cooperation is more evident. In bonobos, reproductive behavior has evolved into a sophisticated social tool, an evolutionary strategy that promotes stability and cohesion within the group. Number 8. The tireless mating cycle of lions. The mating of lions, scientifically known as Panthera leo, is one of the most intense reproductive processes among big cats. At first glance, it may seem brief and simple. After all, each copulation lasts on average less than a minute. However, what is truly impressive is not the individual duration, but the frequency and persistence with which it occurs. When a lioness enters her fertile period, she remains receptive for about 4 to 7 days. During this interval, the pair may temporarily separate from the rest of the pride. It is during this time that the so-called repetitive cycle occurs. The male may mate with the female every 15 to 30 minutes, reaching an astonishing 50 to 100 copulations in a single day. This repetition is not excessive, it is a biological necessity. Lionesses are induced ovulators, meaning ovulation occurs in response to stimulation caused by mating itself. In other words, multiple copulations significantly increase the chances that the female will release eggs and become pregnant. The act itself is quick but intense. After copulation, it is common to see the lioness react abruptly. She often growls, turns quickly, or swats at the male. This reaction is associated with the physiological stimulation triggered by reproductive contact, which activates the hormonal process necessary for ovulation. Although it may appear aggressive, it is a natural mechanism within the species' biology. During these days, the pair barely rests. They interrupt mating only to drink water or regain energy. The male demonstrates great physical endurance, as he must also remain vigilant against potential rivals. In male coalitions, common among brothers, partners may even share the same lioness during her fertile period, strengthening alliances and increasing the likelihood of passing on the group's genes. This behavior also has deep social implications. In prides where a new male takes control, previous cubs may be eliminated, accelerating the return of females to estrus. For this reason, reproduction is closely linked to power dynamics and dominance within the group. After a gestation period of about 110 days, days, the lioness withdraws to give birth in an isolated location. The cubs are born vulnerable and completely dependent on their mother during the first weeks. Thus, the entire intense mating cycle is the first step in maintaining the pride's lineage and social structure. In lions, reproduction is not just biology, it is also strategy, endurance, and an assertion of dominance. Number 9. The chaotic ritual of hippos. Hippos, scientifically known as hippopotamus amphibius, live in rivers and lakes of sub-Saharan Africa and are among the most territorial animals on the continent. Although they spend much of their time submerged, their social life is intense, especially during the breeding season. When a female is ready to mate, the dominant territorial male performs a series of chemical evaluations. He sniffs the female's rear area and may even taste her urine to confirm fertility. This behavior may seem strange from a human perspective, but in the animal world, it is an effective method of hormonal analysis. Adult males compete fiercely for territory. One of the most striking displays is known as dung scattering, in which the male rapidly spins his tail while urinating and defecating at the same time, spreading the material across the environment. This visual and olfactory display serves as a clear territorial marker. Mating takes place in the water. The male mounts the female and partially submerges her. Since hippos need to breathe, the female periodically surfaces for air before submerging again. The process may appear turbulent, but it is adapted to the aquatic environment in which they live. Gestation lasts about 8 months. The calf is usually born in shallow water or on solid ground near the river, weighing around 40 to 50 kilograms. In the first days after birth, the mother separates from the group, isolating herself to strengthen the bond with her calf and nurse safely. Nursing can occur both in water and on land. When the calf needs to cross deeper waters, the mother allows it to climb onto her back, a classic image of African wildlife. Hippo mothers are extremely protective. They defend their young not only from predators such as crocodiles and lions, but also from other male hippos that may pose a threat. Hippos follow what is known as a K reproductive strategy, characterized by few offspring, a long period of parental care, and high investment in each descendant. This model favors long-term survival rather than mass reproduction. When the calf reaches about 1 year of age, it begins to become more independent, gradually reducing its dependence on its mother's milk. Even so, it remains close to its mother for several years, learning essential social and territorial behaviors. Number 10. The intense rituals of rhinoceroses. Rhinoceroses are imposing giants belonging to the family Rhinocerotidae. With massive bodies, thick skin, and 1 or 2 prominent horns, they resemble prehistoric creatures walking across the savannas and forests of Africa and Asia. And when it comes to reproduction, their rituals are as powerful as their appearance suggests. Rhino courtship is far from delicate. When the female enters her fertile period, she may emit loud, high-pitched vocalizations, a kind of whistle or call that signal her receptivity. These sounds travel long distances as rhinos often live scattered across large territories. Interestingly, males do not always respond immediately. In some situations, the female must pursue the male, demonstrating persistence. When they finally meet, a phase informally known as bluff and bluster begins. At this stage, male and female may push each other, run in circles, and even collide with force. When 2 males compete for the same female, confrontations can be even more intense. They lock horns and deliver powerful charges, kicking up dust and echoing impacts across the landscape. These clashes can last for hours and are true tests of strength and endurance. Despite their violent appearance, these rituals help ensure that only the strongest and healthiest males achieve reproductive success. This process strengthens the population by selecting genetically fitter individuals. After confrontation and acceptance, mating occurs relatively quickly. However, the biological investment is enormous. A rhinoceros's gestation can last about 15 to 16 months, one of the longest among land mammals. The calf is born large, weighing dozens of kilograms, and remains by its mother's side for several years. The intense ritual, therefore, is only the beginning of a slow and highly strategic reproductive cycle, typical of large mammals that invest heavily in few offspring. Number 11. The thorny process of porcupines. The mating ritual of porcupines is among the most curious and delicate in the animal kingdom. These rodents, belonging to the family Erythricyntidae in the case of American species, and the family Hystricidae in African and Asian species, are primarily known for their long, sharp quills, structures that serve as an extremely efficient defense against predators. However, when it comes time to reproduce, those same quills become a challenge requiring precision, communication, and care. Unlike many mammals with extended breeding periods, female porcupines go into heat for an extremely short time, usually between 8 and 12 hours per year. This makes the process highly urgent. If the male misses this window, he may have to wait months for another opportunity. This time limitation increases the intensity of the ritual. The process begins with the male locating the female through scent. He approaches cautiously, aware of the risk posed by the quills. The initial stage involves a peculiar behavior. The male sprays urine on the female. This spray is not random, it serves as a chemical and behavioral test. If the female is not receptive, she immediately reacts by shaking vigorously, spreading her quills, and clearly signaling disinterest. If she is ready to mate, her behavior changes completely. The female assumes a specific posture, raising her tail and exposing the underside of her body, a region with fewer quills or more flexible ones. This gesture is an unmistakable sign of acceptance. Even so, the process requires extreme care. The male must position himself precisely to avoid contact with the more dangerous quilled areas. Many porcupine species have quills with microscopic barbs that make removal difficult if they penetrate the skin. Therefore, mating is not merely an instinctive act, but an exercise in coordination and body control. Additionally, the male may mate repeatedly during the female's short fertile period. This behavior increases the chances of reproductive success, but also demands considerable physical endurance. The process may repeat several times within the few available hours, making the moment intense and exhausting. After fertilization, gestation lasts several months depending on the species. The offspring is born relatively well developed and with soft quills that harden a few hours after birth. This adaptation allows the newborn to be quickly protected, maintaining the species' defensive efficiency from an early stage. Number 12. The intense competition of kangaroos belonging to the genus Macropus are among the most iconic mammals of Australia. Adapted to a land marked by climatic extremes, long droughts, unpredictable rains, and vast open areas, these marsupials have developed an extraordinarily strategic reproductive system. More than simple instinct, kangaroo reproduction is a complex game of chemistry, strength, hierarchy, and evolutionary adaptation. Living in groups called mobs, which can range from just a few individuals to dozens, kangaroos establish relatively flexible social structures, strongly influenced by the size and strength of males. It is within this social context that reproductive competition intensifies. When a female goes into heat, she begins to emit subtle yet highly effective chemical signals. These are mainly released in urine and body secretions. Males, equipped with a keen sense of smell, often approach to sniff the female's urogenital area or examine her freshly deposited urine on the ground. Upon detecting hormonal signs of fertility, the male performs additional behavioral analysis. He observes the female's posture, movements, and tolerance of his proximity. If she is receptive, she allows his presence without reacting aggressively. Otherwise, she may drive him away with kicks or abrupt jumps. Nothing in this process is random. Each interaction is an exchange of carefully interpreted signals. Courtship begins relatively calmly. The male may gently touch the female with his forepaws, lick her neck, or make soft scratches along her back. These actions test her receptiveness. In some cases, there are subtle vocalizations, low sounds not easily perceived from a distance, but part of their communication. However, the calm rarely lasts long. The real intensity emerges when more than one male is interested in the same female. Dominant males, usually larger and more muscular in the chest and arms, position themselves strategically near fertile females. They patrol the area, monitor rivals, and clearly display through body posture who is in control. Their physical build is not merely for appearance, it is a competitive tool. When two males engage in confrontation, the scene transforms into an impressive display of strength and balance. They rise upright, firmly supported by their powerful tails, which function as a third point of support, almost like a biological tripod. With their forepaws, they push and grab their opponent. Then they deliver powerful kicks with their hind legs, using sharp claws to try to unbalance the rival. These fights can last intense minutes and demand considerable physical endurance. Although they rarely result in death, they can cause significant injuries. The goal is not necessarily to destroy the rival, but to establish hierarchy. The winner gains priority access to females and reinforces his dominant position within the group. Meanwhile, smaller males adopt alternative strategies. Instead of... Number 13. the selective mating rituals of giraffes. The giraffe, scientifically called Giraffa camelopardalis, is the tallest land animal in the world. Its impressive height is not only useful for reaching leaves and treetops, it also plays a crucial role in social and reproductive dynamics. Females can go into heat throughout the year, usually every 2 weeks, but the fertile window itself is short. Because they live in vast open areas of the African savanna, males must travel long distances to locate receptive females. One of the most characteristic courtship behaviors of giraffes is known as the flamen response. The male smells the female's urine and then lifts his head with his upper lip curled, chemically analyzing the hormones present. This test allows him to determine whether she is in her fertile period. Competition between males can be intense. The famous necking, when two males swing their necks and strike each other's bodies with their heads, is a way of establishing dominance. Although it often looks choreographed, these confrontations can be quite forceful and determine who will gain access to females. When courtship progresses, the male may lick the female's tail, gently touch her body, or rest his head on her back. If she accepts, he mounts by standing on his hind legs and balancing his front legs on her flanks, a task that requires great coordination, considering the height of both animals. Gestation is one of the longest among land mammals, lasting between 400 and 460 days. When the calf is born, it falls from nearly 2 meters high, which helps break the umbilical cord and stimulate breathing. Within just a few hours, the newborn can stand and walk, an essential ability for surviving in environments where predators are always alert. The calf will nurse for several months and remain close to its mother for over a year, learning movement patterns and social behavior. Number 14. The tireless mating habits of leopards. The leopard, scientifically known as Panthera pardus, is one of the most adaptable big cats on the planet. Found in Africa and parts of Asia, it inhabits dense forests, open savannas, mountainous regions, and even areas near urban centers. Solitary, stealthy, and extremely territorial, the leopard spends most of its life alone, except during the breeding period, when its routine changes dramatically. When a female goes into heat, one of the most intense mating cycles among big cats begins. Like other members of the genus Panthera, female leopards are induced ovulators. This means ovulation occurs as a direct response to copulation. For this reason, repetition is essential. The pair may mate every 15 to 20 minutes over several consecutive days, sometimes for up to an entire week. Over this period, the total number of copulations can easily exceed 200. This high frequency significantly increases the chances of fertilization and also reduces the likelihood that other males will successfully reproduce with the same female. At first glance, the process may seem aggressive. After each copulation, the female often growls, turns quickly, or attempts to swat the male away. This behavior is linked to the physiological response that triggers ovulation. It is not social conflict, but a biological mechanism deeply rooted in the species' evolution. Leopards are not monogamous. A single female may mate with more than one male during her fertile period, especially in areas where territories overlap. This can result in litters with multiple fathers, increasing the genetic diversity of the cubs. After a gestation period of about 3 months, the female seeks an isolated location, such as caves, rocky crevices, or dense vegetation, to give birth. The cubs are born blind and completely dependent. During the first weeks, the mother frequently moves them to avoid predators, including lions and hyenas. The intense mating cycle, therefore, is not just a display of endurance, but a refined evolutionary strategy that ensures survival in a highly competitive environment. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed our content, subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Also, check out other interesting content appearing on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.